The interaction you're about to witness is at a rooftop lounge in New York City on a weekday and fairly early in the night. So it's a situation where it is a nightclub type of a venue, but it's much more relaxed, very quiet. Also with it being early in the night, there are a lot of different factors that might play in terms of whether you can take a girl home or whether you have to get a number, that sort of a situation. This is also one of, I think it actually was my first approach of the night that night. So it's, again, very, very early, very, very chatty, conversational kind of interaction, but we can look at it and see how, even in spite of that nature, there still is going to be man-to-woman vibe, there's still going to be flirtation, things will still move along nicely. I'm sorry, that might have been the most adorable expression I've ever seen in my entire life.
What?
The look of like consternation and like politeness on your face a second, it's just like, I don't even know. I'm sorry.
Did I put back there?
I'm sorry, I didn't even introduce myself. I'm sorry.
Yeah, nice to meet you. Yes.
You are very bubbly.
What?
You're very like bubbly and happy. I love it.
Am I? That's not one I've ever gotten before, but I'll take your word for it.
Well, maybe it's just my influence.
Okay, probably.
Maybe just, you know, you saw me and you got really, really happy and...
Yeah, exactly.
It's good. I'm flattered. I'm a little concerned. Like, I'm not sure, you know, it's a little too much too fast. I'm a very shy boy.
Thank you. So
you're a shy boy? This is weird.
Girl.
So up to here, you'll see a great actual example of a lot of the things that you will have seen in opening mastery, right? You'll see I went in, I got her attention, right? And then I continued to be willing to talk for the first 20, 30 seconds if necessary, continue to be willing to carry the conversation, not trying to, but willing if necessary. You'll notice that I took an arrogant frame, right? You'll notice that I made things relevant for her. She hasn't really given like really hard shit tests, but she's given some subtle little sort of frame test, little shit test like that. And now we're at a place where there's some level of agreement that we're at least both enjoying the conversation, right? So I wouldn't say she's like hooked to the point of like she's in love with me or anything like that, but like she's hooked to the point of being engaged in the conversation, being willing to participate. I've done the majority of what needs to happen on a pure open. From here, it's going to be obviously continuing with the same, but hooking the set, moving it forward from there.
Excuse me, but yeah.
Yeah? You're a little adorable.
Thanks.
What is, in like, before we go both like find our people later, what is your story briefly?
What do you mean my story?
What would surprise me about you, other than, you know, the bubbliness that surprises you about you?
I'm new to New York.
Okay. How long?
A few weeks.
Congratulations. Welcome to my city. I appreciate it.
Thanks. So what about you?
What about me?
What's something interesting about you?
So I've lived in New York for quite a while, but I travel way too much, and so I'm like here and there and here. I just got back from, I did an 8-city trip, so I'm like very excited to be back in my city. Yeah. I don't know, beyond that, I don't know, what do you want? Like hopeless romantic, long walks on the beach?
I don't know. Just whatever you've got for me, really.
Whatever I've got for you? Mm-hmm. You'll take anything I've got. All
yeah.
Right. Who are you here at the moment? Just you or a bunch of friends? So as you can see, I'm continuing to move things forward. I've now qualified the girl a little bit, asked her to tell me about herself, asked her to sort of prove and justify herself to me a little bit. And now, given that, you know, she seems to be receptive, things seem to be going well, it's only a couple minutes in, I'm already screening for her logistics. I'm asking, what are the friends she's here with? What is her situation? Now, there's a couple reasons for this. First reason is, it's very likely if she is with people that sooner or later they're going to materialize and be an issue. So I want to know they're coming and being able to handle whatever's going to come up in terms of the friends. That's very, very important that I handle it proactively and with full information, as opposed to trying to figure it out after the fact. But also, I already am screening for what are the odds I can take this girl home tonight, and if I am going to take this girl home, what are the factors that will be at play in this situation?
No, I'm looking to meet someone.
Okay.
I have to find him. Yeah.
Oh, fair enough. Well, hi, I'm Todd. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too.
Interesting. I'm supposed to meet people in a little bit, but nobody's here as yet.
Gotcha.
I'm the one at the moment. You live in Manhattan?
Yeah.
Do you do drinks with cute, spontaneous boys?
It's not spontaneous.
You give me the funniest look just now.
Do you live in Manhattan?
I do. Like meatpacking area?
Okay.
Okay. That's good. I mean, you're kind of far away, but it's like a straight shot, so it's fine.
Oh, okay. You're like planning it out. All right.
As long as there's no like crosstown taxis involved and us hanging out, it's okay.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Thanks.
That's where I draw the line. I mean, you're charming and all, but like, a boy's got to have his standards.
Where the line is, as long as you know it. Yeah.
So what you saw there is actually really subtle. I almost wanted to include it in the verbal game, but it's a general enough point. I think I'll include it here. Basically, I was trying to escalate and suggest plans, right? And maybe she would have said yes to it, but she was hesitant, right? So based on the fact that she was hesitant, rather than continue forward with the full offer, rather than really go forward with it, I actually backed off and changed the subject in the middle of my own offer so that she actually wasn't presented with the question and she didn't have an opportunity to say no to it. And then I continued to go ahead and build the vibe, build the situation, build the comfort, and then I can go ahead and ask again later. But it's actually a really interesting and subtle technique that happens on any kind of escalation, which is if you start to escalate and you see a negative, one, you always want to back off and change the mood, not the mind, that kind of stuff. But even beyond that, if you can change the subject or veer the interaction in a different direction right before you get the rejection, you can avoid ever getting the rejection at all, right? And that's very, very powerful in terms of the overall vibe of the set, in terms of not being pushy, and in terms of potentially getting the girl to chase you.
It's good. You always need a line.
Okay, so what brings the adorable, sort of innocent-seeming girl to New York? Okay. So, because you were passionate about a subject, or because you just didn't want to leave school?
Because I'm passionate about a subject, and I need my master's to get the job I want.
Okay. I feel like being a parent being like, good girl, but no, tell me more about it. I'm sorry. That's almost condescending. So we just cut out about a minute of us exchanging biographical information. Obviously, this is something we have to cut for the safety and privacy of the girl, that sort of stuff. But I just want you to note that it was there, because I think a lot of times in infield that sort of stuff gets cut and you don't know what was happening. You get this impression that there's way too much gamey stuff going on and there's no period where you're just being real, getting to know the girl, that kind of stuff. It is totally fine to spend time getting to know the girl, etc. And to just have her get to know you. It's totally fine to have logical bits. It's totally fine to have boring parts in the set, as long as there's enough spice going on in general. So I just wanted to make that point. We cut out about a minute of biography there, just so you understand kind of the sequencing of the set. I'm sorry to have offended you by state.
No,
Goodness.
it's okay. It's all right.
Fair enough. See, we're off to such a good start, but now it's just not going to work out.
Yeah.
It's too bad.
We was on the same side of the city, and then it's all downhill from there.
I know. It was nice meeting you. I want you to know it's not you, it's me. I still
it's
think
definitely you. I know it's you.
I still think you're a wonderful person.
Thank you.
I would hope that one day we could be friends. It'll hurt for a while for me.
Okay.
So,
understandable.
Yeah, it might take me a while to get over it.
Oh, it definitely will.
I might have to date like 5 or 6 other people in between or something.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it happens to the best of us.
Yeah, you have that effect on men.
Yeah, definitely.
You're super adorable. I literally don't even know. Okay, so it means that you work a lot, but your schedule is fairly free. So it's like a lot of like working, like you have a little bit of classes, but then you have a lot of like research time. What you just saw here is a really good example of disqualifiers, which is one of the most powerful tools that you have in your arsenal in game in general. And as an idea, the idea of pushing the girl away, the idea of not being super available, etc. But you'll notice it's tongue-in-cheek, and it's not insulting. It's not, you're a fucking shitty person, or you're like a ugly girl. It's nothing like that. It's all very positive. It's just you and I wouldn't get along, that sort of stuff. And it's also joking enough that it can't quite be taken seriously. And just to point out how joking it is, right afterwards, I again immediately went back into screening for logistics. So it's not such a harsh disqualifier that it seems weird that I would ask those kind of questions, okay? It's all lighthearted, it's all fun, it's all funny, but it is important to have these frames of that you're not always chasing the girl and you're not always needy. Sometimes you're willing to push her away, you're willing to reject her, you're a man of standards. Following this, there's another brief segment here of biographical information. Not super long, but just a little bit of biography exchanged.
And then I try and stay sane the other time.
How's that working out?
A lot of drinking.
Well, I go out a lot too, so we can,
Well,
tell you what, we can go out, we can hang out together, just like we'll keep the Googleable Facebook facts to like a minimum so that if you become a weird stalker, like you have limited ammo.
Good. I'm glad you're acknowledging that you're going to become a weird stalker and that I need to be preventative.
So I don't know what to do with you.
Probably run away.
Maybe.
Run away.
I'll go into more depth on this particulars of this in the verbal game segment of the breakdown, but just right here, notice the frame battle. Notice, she actually did a pickup technique on me called misinterpretation, right? But notice that no matter what she throws at me, I'm not that fussed by it. I understand what really happened. I'm not really bothered, and I hold my frame. My frame is always an arrogant one. My frame is always a playful one. My frame always comes from the fact that I know I'm offering value, and if anything, she's the lucky one to be talking to me rather than the other way around.
You're witty and at least partially educated though, so that's good.
Partially, yeah.
You're partway through your education.
So here's a question.
When what you're doing, are you actually really learning stuff, or are you just doing it to get the degree and then you're just going to do whatever you would have done before?
Another segment of biography, just to let you know that it's thrown in there, okay? Remember that we're mixing in the biography, the logic with the flirting. That's so important to realize, is that it's not all flirt, and it's not all boring biography. It has to be the mix of the two.
You are a dork, but you're an adorable one. I like it.
Thanks. So what do you do? Besides just travel.
Well,
Left and right.
the short story is I used to play poker, and now I don't really have to anymore. I invest in travel and...
Social workers don't do that. I don't know if you're familiar.
You don't travel, you don't invest,
I
you don't...
try and travel. I don't think I have any. I invest in my education, I guess.
Investing in yourself, it is what it is. Fair enough.
Whether it works out for me or not,
You know,
to be determined.
tell you what, you can bring the good karma to the relationship, and I'll bring everything practical in the real world, and it'll be great.
Okay, that's all we need. Balance each other out right there.
Look at that, you're like, we already established it's not going to work. You're so ready to just jump right back on board with me, see? We're going to have an on again, off again thing, I don't know.
Sometimes it's all you can do.
How old are you?
Again, we'll talk in both the women's segments and verbal game segments in this area. But again, just the major point to notice in terms of strategy and how the overall interaction is coming together, notice that I'm continually taking on the role that I am higher value than her. I'm offering to her. She needs to prove herself to me. That's something that's going to come up over and over and over again, and it's a major understanding to have in terms of the philosophy you should have regarding yourself and women, and also the frames you need to have in the interaction. So as a general rule, you want to be, again, we talk about an opening mastery, we'll talk about it throughout this entire program, you need to be assuming those frames of high value. If you do a lot of great behaviors from a low value frame, it doesn't really matter. The most important thing is the overall message you're conveying, and that has to be a high value message.
What? How old do you think that is?
Oh my God. Old enough to use the cheesiest lines over and over again.
Yeah.
So that's going to be at like 23, 24, something like that. You're right, son. All right.
No, you're wrong.
How old are you? Oh. Well, look at you.
Yeah,
So
look at me.
precocious.
I usually get older though. I usually get like 26. That's what people tell me.
Well, you usually don't give people cheesy pickup lines in bars, so you know.
You're in there. But...
You're in there?
Yeah, how old are you?
How old am I?
Yeah.
How old do you think?
28.
I'm a little older than that.
30.
A little older.
34.
I want to say a little older and just keep you guessing, but I am 34.
Okay.
Yeah. I wanted to keep going and see how long you'd believe. It'd be like 60, 65.
I think I would have walked away before I hit 65.
Oh, really? You're an ageist. You're a social worker. You're supposed to be politically correct. What if I'm just very healthy and well preserved?
Could be it.
No. It's okay, don't worry.
But you should have been like maybe a little like grossed out by my age if you were 65.
As long as you're mature. Well, no, but
I'm
you know,
clear at
but I'm
this
also
point.
not 65, so your maturity level only has to be up to a certain.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate
You're
that
welcome.
one.
Well, no, but never mind.
Why? No, tell me.
I was gonna say I'm 65 from the waist down, so don't get any ideas. Okay, I'm useless.
The only
I'm
things I like to
disappointed.
be 65. It worked out for both of us. Why would you think I wouldn't be about that?
Oh, perfect. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll be very sexually undemanding. I'll be quick. You won't feel a thing.
So notice how I just introduced sex into the conversation. It's so important, right? Most guys, they either don't ever introduce sex, right, and they end up this very platonic conversation, or they introduce sex in this very blatant, obvious way, or even like offensive way, or highly, highly flattering and validating way. what did I just do? I introduced sex in the negative, right? In a sense. I just insinuated vaguely as a joke that I might be bad in bed, right? In like a self-deprecating joke. And funny enough, the self-deprecation isn't even real self-deprecation, because if you actually did have a small penis, you wouldn't talk about it like that. But so I brought up sex in the negative. I just introduced the element into the conversation, and now we're in a much more sexually charged scenario. We're actually discussing sex, talking sexual banter, that kind of stuff. I'm finding out her sexual blueprint a little bit. I now am using these assumptive things. That means we will have to do this, that, and the other, right? I've already broached the topic of sex, broached the topic of us having sex, and I've done it in a way which was completely inoffensive, very low risk in terms of value, and almost impossible to get any kind of rejection on. And on top of it, it wasn't boring, right? So much has been done there with so little.
And sex before marriage.
Right, I'm a virgin too.
Yeah. You think I'm joking?
You are fucking adorable. I'm surprised by you.
Why?
Do you know the phrase? Do you know the phrase to grow on someone? Most people do the opposite with me.
Oh, you picky.
I mean, I think anyone with the ability to be should be. Yes.
I disagree.
Do you disagree?
Totally believe that there's something good about everyone, and that.
Yeah, but how are you going to get the best if you don't ask for it and strive for it?
But how can you not bring out the best in someone else?
I do. I bring out the best in people I select as the best.
So what you've just seen and what you're going to continue to see is kind of an interesting dialogue, because it is a battle between two frames, right? Her frame of this like egalitarian, everyone has value thing, and my frame of this like very elitist thing. It just so happens I actually kind of do believe the elitist thing. I do believe that there are people that have stepped up more than others in life. It is what I actually believe. However, even if I didn't believe that, this would be a useful frame in set, because if nobody's special, if people can't stand out and step up, why would she want to have a one-night stand with me? Or why would she want to hook up with me versus some other guy? If there's no metric for comparison, I can't stand out, right? So I want a world in which there are these comparisons. I want this world of elitism. Also, generally the people who tend to take elitist views, for better or for worse, is how it is in life, those people tend to be a little bit the elite, right? And so I'm trying to convey to her that I am in that category. So this is very interesting in terms of looking at it in terms of the frame battle and who's going to win the frame battle, but it's also important to have a particular side of the frame battle. It's not just who wins and loses, it's which frame wins, because the frame is going to dictate the nature of your relationship with her, right? Other examples of this is like if you take on very sexual frames, you're going to have a much more sexual interaction. If you take on very platonic frames where you're shaming a girl for sex, those kind of things, you're going to end up with a very non-sexual, dull, boring friend-to-friend interaction, right? So it's not only that the frame battle matters who wins it and that you can handle it, it also matters which frames you're taking into the frame battle and which frames you're coming into an interaction with, what frames you have in life, because they're going to convey your social status, they're going to convey how you are sexually, they're going to convey how you relate to the girl and to the world.
That's not fair.
Why is that not fair?
Because you're missing out on a lot of people.
There's 7 billion or so in the world. I don't have time for all of them. I have to pick and choose. You know, if everyone's
But
special.
it would be better if it was random selection, not a systematic selection.
Really? No. Like, if you're hiring for a job, would you want someone that has a certain credential, or would you just want any random person off the street?
That's completely different.
It's random selection versus discerning selection.
Selecting someone to fill a role. By being my friend, you're not fulfilling a role.
By being my friends, or anything else, you would be filling a role.
You have standards to stick up to. Perfect.
You know. That said, to your credit, you're not falling far short of the parameters thus far. So
I kind of wish I was.
Yeah.
Just so you would just so I could feel the wrath of that.
The wrath? I wouldn't be wrath. It'd be more ice. It'd be like, nice to meet you, bye. Actually, it'd be very pleasant. It'd be like, you know what? It's been a pleasure meeting. It's been amazing. I do have to. My friends, I think. Yep, that was them buzzing. Okay. So,
Yeah.
yeah. So, but anyway, it's. It's been real. Have a good time in my city, and see you never.
Your city. It's your city. Okay. I'll avoid the meatpacking district from here on out.
So we'll go into a lot more detail on a lot of the things that are going on here in the women breakdown section and in the verbal game stuff, because there is a lot going on here. But I just want you to notice how I'm continuing to push away, continuing to maintain those high value frames. And then what I really want you to notice out of what you've just seen is who's reacting more to the other person, okay? What's going on over and over again is I introduce a frame, she reacts to the frame, and then while she's still reacting to it and hasn't even gotten over it emotionally, I've introduced a new frame and she's reacting to that. But I'm always the one leading the frame, I'm always the one dictating, and she's the one reacting to me, never the other way around. And in any interaction, the person reacting more to the other person is the person of lower value, right? So if I'm dictating and she's reacting, I'm the high value person in the interaction.
I mean, unless you want to be friends and hang out,
I mean,
which would be
I'm not
totally
meeting
fine.
your standards.
I didn't say you weren't. I said you were. I said thankfully you're not falling well short of my standards, so.
Thanks.
You're very welcome.
I live to meet your standards.
That's a little strong. We just met.
This is sarcasm right there.
Can you? What is that?
Vodka soda.
No, sarcasm. What is that? Vodka soda I'm acquainted with. Sarcasm is foreign to me.
Actually, it's just water with lime in it.
Is it really? You're trying to fool and trick innocent boys to getting drunk so you can take advantage of them while you drink water?
No, I brought my roofies for that. Come on.
Fair enough.
No, it's actually enough.
At least promise that you'll cuddle with me and get me in a safe cab home, okay?
I mean, you said roofies really aren't worth you because you're 65 from the waist down, so unhelpful right there.
Well, you can mix roofies and Viagra, I suppose. That'd be like a interesting little cocktail.
I didn't bring my Viagra, so you would have to supply that. That just complicates everything.
And we're back to I bring everything to this relationship.
Oh, you bring everything?
Everything.
I think I bring the looks.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Kindness?
I mean, you are pretty, but like I think that's insulting.
Just roll with it.
You can bring. You probably are kinder than I, actually.
Yeah. I think I bring the sun.
You bring the fun? You obviously have never met me, dear.
I think we just met actually. So that's funny.
Yes. You obviously never met me prior to 5 minutes ago.
Yeah. Why?
I don't know. Because I don't know, fun isn't my word to describe it. Adventure would be a better word. Adventure, adventurous. Fun you can determine, I suppose. Fair enough. I'm a little tempted to take you on an adventure, but I don't know you that well. And also you seem...
Yeah, I mean, like, I have plans for tonight, but I'm up for it. Yeah, and you're meeting your friends.
Eventually, yeah.
And I'm firm on not being a flaky person and not contributing to other people being flaky people.
For one, my friends would understand. If I told them I met someone cool, they'd be like, all right.
What's the matter?
That said, we barely met, and let's take it slow on all of that in general before we like get into all that.
Yeah. You don't want to be halfway into an adventure with me and then just want to ditch me. That'd just be awkward.
I manage. I'm good at extricating.
Yeah.
Yeah, fair enough. I would join you for a quick drink while we're here if you would like. I know you have a half. I have a zero.
I have a lot. Yeah, you should
lot?
go get a drink. Yeah.
Fair enough.
So I'm not the only alcoholic.
So there you saw a couple different things. You saw me screening for the logistics for tonight, and at the same time sort of seeding plans in a vague way. A lot of times when I'm making plans, I don't want to be super direct about it, because again, if you're very direct and you hear a no, it sets you way back. But if you're kind of indirect about it and just hint at it, there's nothing for her to say no to, but you still get all the same information about what's going on in her head, how ready she is for various things, that sort of stuff. I could have maybe pressed, in this case, like the whole like ditch your plans, hang out with me instead. But at this point, I wanted to just build a little more time with her and build a little more into this the interaction before I would necessarily take a big risk like that. I try not to be very pushy at all if I can avoid it in my interactions. Also, to be fair, I'm not crazily committed to this particular interaction because it's early in the night, because the logistical situation isn't ideal, because there's these various other things. And so my thought is, if her plans are pretty firm, it's going to be hard to do more than get a number anyway. So by pushing very hard to get more than a number, I'm going to do either one of two things. One is waste a ton of my time that I could be using on potentially more viable prospects. And two is by pushing really hard for something other than a number when a number just makes sense and could work, I'm likely to make that number actually more flaky. So there's a couple different factors playing in here. Because I don't have a clear set direction and because I don't see a clear urgency, I'm not going to be pushy at this time. So we cut out about 45 minutes of just biographical, factual stuff. But again, I want to point that out for you so that you know where it's come out of, and you understand that the sequencing of the interaction is not just game all the time. There are boring segments.
So this person you're allegedly meeting, I'm guessing, what, Tinder date?
No.
What worse? Oh
I'm
God.
getting into the details.
Oh God, worse.
I've met him before. Hung out with him a couple times.
Okay. But that's worse? Okay.
Situations of
Okay.
Oh, I love it.
You roofied him too?
So here I'm screening out what her plan is. I'm screening out for a couple things. One, I'm screening for if I can get her to cancel it. Two, I'm screening for how serious her intent or intention are with this other dude. And based on what I'm hearing here, I'm not very big on my ability to cancel it. It seems like it's a friend. And weirdly enough, if the guy was a potential sexual prospect, especially like say I said Tinder date or something like that, and she just liked me more, she wouldn't have a lot of commitment to him, and I'm in the same category as him, so I can win in a direct comparison. If it's an actual friend, the social consequences to flaking on the friend are actually probably stronger, so she's less likely to do it, and it's someone she's seen a couple times, so there's a little ingrained history there. Also, if he's in more of a friend frame, then it's not really a threat to me. The last thing I ever want to do is take a girl's number and then send her off on a date where she gets like fucked by some other guy, right? That tends to be a very not solid number. But if it's a situation where she's going to just go be bored by some other guy and then I can follow up with the number and go about my night, I'm not nearly as concerned there. So at this time, I actually don't mind her future plans that much, but also I do feel like it might be harder to get her out of those plans than if it were actually a direct competition or a guy she was sexually interested in. So we're going to have about a minute of biography, and then we'll cut back into the interaction.
Well, it'll all work out. I've done that well so far. It'll be fine.
I just like giving you a hard time, that's all.
I have said hey. I don't mind it.
I can tell.
What? Are you like glaring at me intently?
Intently perhaps, glaring never.
Gazing. Is that
Wow,
your preferred?
that makes it sound so like, I don't know. Makes it sound so forward of me. Gazing intently.
It is a little forward.
Really? Would you prefer I were backward?
Always like it backward.
One last little segment of biography that we're cutting out, again, pointing these out for you so that you understand sort of the sequencing and the rhythm of the interaction. So here we cut out maybe like 20 seconds or so of just biographical exchange. Doesn't seem that important in the interaction, and we cut it out for obvious reasons, but it is important that there be some of it in the interaction. If you had an interaction with no biography, she'd have nothing to tell her friends about you.
For you momentarily. How presently are you expecting your compatriot?
I think he's here. Okay. Just not going to approach him first. What?
What am I going to do with you? Alright, so here's the deal with me. Just so you know. So, that's adorable. So I am here for like one more day and then I'm flying to LA. I'll be back in like a week and a half.
Yeah.
We'd like to grab a drink in a week and a half.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay. How would I contact you? I'm going to get a drink, but how would I
I
contact
have a phone.
you? Okay.
It's like this crazy thing. I don't know if you've heard of it before, but
I
do
use
have
smoke
one.
signals personally, but I can upgrade.
My pigeon, he just like broke a wing, and it's hard to find a good pigeon these days, you know?
pigeons. You don't take care of your pigeons, they won't take care of you.
It wasn't my fault.
Uh-huh. All right. You have to remind me your name, though. Okay, you're adorable. We can't do that. I'm a virgin, remember?
Same.
I know, right? I will hopefully get to hang out with you in a week and a half or so. You're fun, for sure.
Don't be flaky, though.
Oh, my God.
I'm joking.
All right. Have some semblance of fun, and if you get bored, text me and be like, hey, I'm bored, save me.
Hi, yeah, have a good night. Oh, I don't have your number.
I'll text
night.
you.
Meet up with you.
Yeah.
Maybe approach this guy. Probably not.
You want some help?
No.
All right.
Clearly, I'm fine just walking around with you.
All right.
So there you saw a lot of hallmarks of a solid number. The hallmarks were I led the close slightly and she actually closed for me. The hallmarks are there's a good vibe throughout the close. Hallmarks are we were already talking plans and had some kind of idea of what's going on. It wasn't just a number for number's sake. Other interesting hallmarks, she double checked her number. That's a really, really good sign. Girls don't double check fake numbers because they know that's not their number, right? But the fact that she double checked means that she was like vaguely worried she might have gotten it wrong, and it means she's actually pretty invested in seeing me. She's not just like kind of take it or leave it. So there's a lot of very good hallmarks of a very solid number there. Obviously her situation for the evening is kind of weird. I still to this day have no idea exactly what the fuck that was all about, but it is what it is. I did what I think was smart within the circumstance. Maybe I could have tried to push and like twist her arm into like hanging out with me all evening or whatever. But it was early in the night. There's lots of opportunities. And I didn't see a massive need to go down that route. And so I didn't. From here, what you'll see is the phone number sequence. I'm not going to break it down in crazy depth, but I will show you the text. And then we will see the actual date.